the drama surrounding this fight took an unexpected turn as the narrative began to shift away from pure skepticism and into something far more complicated. What once felt like a foregone conclusion slowly became a conversation filled with hesitation, surprise, and uneasy respect. As more fighters, trainers, and insiders stepped forward to speak about Jake Paul's preparation, the tone changed. Not into blind belief, but into acknowledgment. The kind that forces even hardened boxing minds to pause and reconsider what they think they know. The recurring theme was no longer whether Jake belonged in the gym, but how much better he had become once he got there and refused to leave. Those who witnessed his camps firsthand described something that clashed with the lazy assumptions still clinging to his name. Jake Paul was not dabbling. He was not cutting corners. He was not treating boxing like content. The reports painted a picture of someone fully submerged in the grind, showing up every day, listening, absorbing, and enduring punishment without complaint. That alone does not make someone elite, but in a sport that respects suffering above all else, it earns a second look. When seasoned fighters admitted they were impressed, even surprised, it carried weight because it ran against their instinct to dismiss him outright. The most striking element was how often the same phrase came up in different voices. "He is better than people think." That sentence echoed across gyms, interviews, and sparring stories. Not because anyone believed he had suddenly become a finished product, but because his instincts were sharper than expected, his defense more natural, his ability to survive exchanges more developed. The image of a clueless YouTuber melted under the reality of someone who had clearly been coached hard and chosen to listen. That willingness to be taught, to shut up and work, is rare even among fighters who grew up inside boxing. As the praise stacked up, it created an uncomfortable contrast with Anthony Joshua's position. Joshua remains the more accomplished fighter by every traditional metric, yet the discussion now carried nuance. This was no longer about whether Jake could box at all. It became about timing, wear and tear, and where both men stood in their respective arcs. Some observers pointed out that Jake's rise coincided with Joshua's evolution away from brute force dominance. The same calm that once defined Joshua's composure was now being interpreted by critics as detachment, even complacency. Fair or not, perception matters when confidence begins to bleed into prediction. What truly unsettled people was the growing number of heavyweights willing to say Jake had pop. Not elite knockout power, but enough to command respect. Enough to make a man think twice. Enough to change a fight if it lands clean. In heavyweight boxing, that threshold is dangerous territory. You do not need to be the best puncher in the world. You only need one moment. And that possibility alone is what turned this matchup from mockery into debate. Behind the bravado, Jake's team leaned heavily into the idea of preparation as proof. They insisted no fighter gets placed into a high-risk situation like this unless the camp believes he can survive it. The list of sparring partners told its own story. Big bodies, real pressure, relentless sessions, not curated highlights, but ugly work, bloodied noses, exhaustion, moments where the illusion of control disappears and only instinct remains. Those moments matter more than any social media clip. They are where fighters learn who they are when the room goes quiet and the punches keep coming. Perhaps the most revealing shift came from fighters who entered camp expecting to expose Jake and left acknowledging his resolve. The skepticism did not vanish, but it softened. What surprised them was not just his strength, but his willingness to engage. He did not fold. He did not panic. He stayed present under fire. That does not guarantee success against Anthony Joshua, but it does eliminate the narrative that he is fragile. And in a sport where fragility is hunted, that matters. Still, resistance remained fierce. Traditionalists pushed back hard, framing the fight as an insult to the sport. They argued that letting an influencer test himself against a former heavyweight champion sends the wrong message, that it blurs the line between merit and marketability. Their frustration was not entirely misplaced. Boxing has always struggled to balance integrity with spectacle. Jake Paul sits directly at that intersection, forcing the sport to confront its own contradictions. The money is real, the attention is real, and now, increasingly, so is the preparation. Anthony Joshua's silence amid this noise spoke volumes. He did not rush to dismiss Jake, nor did he embrace the hype. His focus appeared inward, grounded in discipline rather than commentary. Those close to him framed his approach as professionalism, but critics saw it differently. Some suggested he was underestimating the moment. Others believed he was conserving energy, both physical and mental, for the only place that truly matters: the ring. Joshua has lived long enough in boxing to know that words dissolve under pressure. He has no incentive to debate belief. He only needs to execute. What makes this fight compelling is not the idea that Jake Paul is favored. He is not. It is the fact that enough credible voices now believe he is prepared enough to make the early rounds uncomfortable. Prepared enough to test Joshua's reflexes, his timing, his durability. Prepared enough to demand respect rather than laughter. That alone is a radical shift from where this story began. The tension between generations, between pathways into the sport, between tradition and disruption, all converge here. This fight is no longer just about winning or losing. It is about legitimacy. About whether dedication can shorten distance that once took decades to travel. About whether belief, backed by relentless work, can bend expectations without breaking reality. As the countdown continues, both outcomes feel heavy with consequence. If Joshua dominates, it reasserts the hierarchy and restores order. If Jake survives, or worse, thrives, it forces boxing to reckon with an uncomfortable truth: that the door is wider than it wants to admit. That preparation can sometimes matter more than pedigree. Now it turns to you. Do you believe Jake Paul's transformation is real enough to threaten Anthony Joshua? Or does experience always win when the lights come on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy deep, cinematic boxing breakdowns like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next chapter in this unfolding story.